Hello and welcome back to Astronomy Daily, the podcast that brings the cosmos down to Earth. I'm Avery.
And I'm Anna. It's great to be with you. Today we're covering everything from the potential abundance of Earth-like planets to a truly mind-bending theory about our first contact with alien life.
Plus, we'll be looking at a record-breaking week for space launches around the globe, a major milestone for a long-serving Mars orbiter, and an exciting opportunity for students to contribute to the future of space exploration. So, let's get started.
Avery, let's start with one of the biggest questions in astronomy. Are we alone? A new study published in Science Advances suggests that planets like ours might be far more common than we previously thought.
This is the kind of news I love. What's the new theory behind this?
It's called the Immersion theory. The basic idea is that the formation of rocky Earth-like planets isn't just a gentle process of dust clumping together over millions of years. Instead, it might be kickstarted by a pretty violent event, a nearby supernova.
A supernova? Wow, so the death of a star could trigger the birth of a planet like ours.
Exactly. The study proposes that the shockwave and material from a supernova explosion can compress a cloud of gas and dust and inject it with heavy elements. This creates the perfect conditions for rocky planets, rich in the materials needed for life, to form around a young star.
That's fascinating. So it's less of a random accident and more of a predictable outcome of cosmic events. What does this mean for the numbers? How much more common are we talking?
The estimates are really promising. The study suggests that anywhere from 10 to 50% of sun-like stars could have planetary systems formed under these conditions. It basically reframes Earth-like planets from being cosmic rarities to potentially being a common class of planet throughout the galaxy.
50%. Just imagine that. It really changes your perspective when you look up at the night sky.
It does. And speaking of what might be out there, another fascinating new idea has emerged about what our first contact with an extraterrestrial civilization might actually be like. And it's not what you see in the movies.
Okay, you have my attention. I'm guessing it's not a friendly hello.
Not exactly. David Kipping from Columbia University has proposed something called the Eschtachian hypothesis. The core idea is that our first contact won't be a typical representative signal from an average alien civilization. Instead, it's more likely to be a loud and atypical signal.
Loud? What does he mean by that? Like powerful and easy to detect?
Precisely. The hypothesis suggests that the first civilization we hear from might be one in a terminal phase, perhaps facing an existential crisis or nearing its end. In a final, desperate act, they might unleash a powerful, information-rich beacon into the cosmos, not necessarily for a reply, but as a final testament to their existence, a sort of cosmic message in a bottle.
Wow, that is a sobering thought. So we wouldn't be hearing from a thriving neighbor, but receiving a final broadcast from a civilization that may no longer exist by the time we get the message.
That's the idea. It's based on a pattern we see in astronomy, where our first discoveries of a new phenomenon are often the most extreme or unusual cases, the easiest ones to spot. The first exoplanets we found were hot Jupiters, which we now know are not the most common type of planet.
Right. That makes sense. The quiet, stable civilizations might be out there, but they'd be much harder to find than one shouting for all it's worth. It completely reframes the search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
It certainly does. Now, bringing our focus back a little closer to home, the skies above Earth are about to get incredibly busy. We're looking at a packed week for space launches from multiple agencies and companies around the world.
It really feels like a new golden age for spaceflight. What are some of the key missions we should be watching?
Well, there are some exciting debuts. We're anticipating the first ever launch of China's Long March 12A rocket, and South Korea is set to launch its first commercial rocket, the Hanbit Nano. Over in Europe, the Ariane 6 is scheduled to launch another batch of Galileo navigation satellites.
And you know it wouldn't be a busy launch week without SpaceX. I assume they have a few flights planned.
Naturally, they have multiple Starlink missions on the manifest as usual, but they aren't the only ones building out satellite internet. United Launch Alliance, or ULA, has a mission for Amazon's Project Kuiper constellation as well.
It's a truly global effort. Who else is on the list?
We're also expecting launches from Japan's JAXA and Rocket Lab. And for the human spaceflight fans, Blue Origin is planning another crewed suborbital flight, sending more citizen astronauts to the edge of space. It's an amazing time to be a space enthusiast.
Absolutely, and all those launches depend on having reliable infrastructure on the ground. On that note, there's some surprisingly good news coming out of the Baikonur Drome Cosmodrome.
That's right. Russia's space agency, Roscosmos, has been working on repairs to a launch pad that was damaged back in November during a crewed Soyuz launch. Initially, the timeline for getting it back in service looked pretty long.
Which is a big deal considering how historic and vital that launch site is. So what's the update?
The news is excellent. Roscosmos now expects the pad to be fully operational by late February 2026. That's significantly sooner than many had anticipated, which is great news for the operational tempo of their launches. It's a real testament to the engineering teams working on the problem.
That really is fantastic news. Now, let's travel from the launch pads of Earth to the orbit of Mars, where a veteran spacecraft has just hit an incredible milestone.
This is such a wonderful story. NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, or MRO, which has been circling the red planet for nearly 2 decades, has just captured its 100,000th image with its most powerful camera.
100,000 images. The camera is high-rise, right? The high-resolution imaging science experiment. The level of detail it captures is just breathtaking. What did they choose to photograph for this landmark image?
This is the best part. The target wasn't chosen by a NASA scientist or a principal investigator. It was suggested by a high school student through a public outreach program called HiWish.
No way, that's brilliant. So anyone can suggest a target for one of the most powerful cameras orbiting another planet?
That's the program. And for its 100,000th photo, HiRise captured a stunning view of mesas and dunes in a region called Syrtis Major. It's a beautiful image and a fantastic example of how NASA involves the public in the journey of exploration.
What a legacy for that student and for the MRO mission itself.
And speaking of getting involved in space exploration, that brings us to our final story. NASA has just launched a new competition for college students, and it's a big one.
Oh, excellent. Tell us about it.
It's called the Orbit Challenge. That's ORBIT. The goal is to get college students to develop innovative solutions that can be used both for life here on Earth and for deep space exploration, especially with an eye towards the Artemis program and future missions to Mars.
That sounds like an amazing opportunity. Is it just conceptual, or are they looking for real technical development?
It's quite serious. There's a prize pool of up to $380,000. Students are encouraged to work with NASA's existing portfolio of patents or to come up with their own brand new concepts. They're really looking for the next generation of innovators.
That's fantastic. A huge resume builder and a chance to make a real impact. For any students or educators listening, what's the deadline?
Registration is open now and runs until February 9th, 2026. So there's plenty of time to form a team and start brainstorming.
From potentially common Earths to final alien broadcasts, from the jam-packed launch schedule to a student-photographed Mars, it's been another incredible week in space news. And that just about does it for today's episode of Astronomy Daily.
We hope we've given you a few new things to wonder about. The universe is a vast and fascinating place, and we're learning more about it every single day.
A huge thank you for tuning in and joining us on this journey. We'll be back soon with more news from across the cosmos. I'm Avery.
And I'm Anna. Until next time, keep looking up.